This is the How Did We Get Here podcast with your host, Nancy Jackson.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to How Do We Get Here, the podcast. This is where we connect some dots, try to figure out what's going on in the world today and how did we get to this point in our culture and in our country and in our government, our economics, and in our faith life. And there's a quote that I like to go back to sometimes, and it is I like to say that words matter. I am a word person, and words matter. It shapes the way we understand things, the words that are used. And I do think that if there's social engineering going on, it starts with verbal engineering. And depending on the kind of words that you use, you can soften something that really is very harsh, and vice versa. And so anyway, it kind of leads me into the topic that I want to talk about today. We are not too long from now, there'll be the big election coming up this fall, and there are a lot of issues on the ballot. Besides the presidential election, there are a lot of other downstream candidates running, and there are other ballot initiatives and other issues on, that are coming up that we have to be prepared for. And one of them in my state is a proposed constitutional amendment that would enshrine abortion rights in our state. And apparently, after the Dobbs decision, which was back in 2022, there have been like 7 other states that have gone to institute constitutional amendments in those states that make abortion an undeniable right for women. And we're facing it in my state now, too. And I have some questions about it. And one of them is, why is the language in the amendment so confusing? It's hard to understand what they're proposing in detail. It's the ambiguity of it that I'm questioning. And I almost think that they do it on purpose, because if we knew what was in there, we probably would not approve it. And but I do know some of the things that are in there, and that's why my question is, how could it be legal to abort a perfectly healthy baby up to the 9th month of pregnancy? And I know that's in there, but it's kind of hidden in there, the way they present it. But how could that possibly be okay? Are you in favor of abortions up to the 9th month of pregnancy? I don't know too many people that are. And then the other one that kind of, well, it really does bother me. If I had a 13-year-old child who was had been gotten in trouble and was pregnant, I'd want to know about it. And I would be wanting to protect that child and counsel her and help in any way I could. I know that it's very shameful for a lot of people, but on the other hand, you kind of have to put that aside when it's someone close to you like that. So is it no longer the right or the obligation of a parent to know about or even consent to their 13-year-old child's abortion? That is in this amendment. And I just wonder why it's just not made very clear, but it's in there. And then what about the other one is what about the liability of the doctors? Um, According to this amendment, doctors and medical staff will not have any liability whatsoever um, with this amendment. All of that liability will be removed. So, will those people performing abortions, first of all, will they be doctors? Not even sure you have to be a doctor. In fact, I'm sure you don't have to be a doctor. Um, do they have to perform with care, or can they be careless? And what about if they don't have that medical liability where they could be sued if they, you know, botch something? If they don't have to worry about it, I think it would make them careless. It would open the door to care. Not everybody is careless, but I would say that there's a good chance that there's going to be a lot of harm done. And then the other one is, why do they have to overturn all of the statutes that are in place now controlling abortions in our state? Those are on the books and they're not being taken out except if this constitutional amendment is put in place. And then my last question is, what about Catholic hospitals? We have a number of them in our city and in our state. And will Catholic hospitals be required to perform abortions if this amendment passes? It's it's against the beliefs and the morals of those hospitals and their practices, and this will all be forced on them. And it's possible that this can be carried over, I believe, into transgender procedures also. And will they be required to perform transgender surgeries? I think all of these are good questions, and I don't know all of the answers, but I do think it's worth asking some questions before you vote. And the reason that I'm bringing up all of this is that I want to take a look back at the way things used to be. Before 1960, the birth rate for an average American family was 6 children. There were some families that had more, and there were some that had less, but that was the average, six per family. Today, in a family, or well, it's hard to say because they're not always families, but the birth rate is 2%. And it's not all, it is, and these are not married people. These are just live births. And I'm not sure how they calculate it when there's no marriage involved, but or when they're not, I guess they'll count them as households or families. That would be the way they would do it. But it's dropped dramatically, and it has a profound effect on our population, and the population that will be coming up is and then it's going to affect Social Security, and it's going to affect people paying into Social Security, and it's not going to be a good thing for younger people. And the other thing that I know what is that back before 1960, out of all live births, only 4% of all babies were born to unmarried women, unwed mothers, unmarried mothers. And today, I guess 60 or 65 years later, the birth rate for unmarried women, 50% is the minimum in the number of live births. 50% of live births are to unmarried women. And in some classes and categories, the rate is as high as 70 or 80% of all live births are to unmarried women. This has to have a profound economic effect, not even mentioning it's pretty hard to take care of a child and work and bring home money and to be able to support a child when you're not married. And this is just like, how did this happen? How did we get to this point? And the crazy thing is that these were all this is all growing out of what was a called the sexual revolution. It started in the 1960s. In 1962, the birth control pill was made available to the public for the first time. And in 1970, no fault divorce was made legal in the United States. Up until that time, it was much more difficult to obtain a divorce than it was after 1970. Basically, if somebody wanted a divorce, all they had to do was say, I want a divorce, and that was it. They could get one. But before that was much more difficult. And then the third thing that happened in 1973 was legalized abortion. And so you would think that with all of that, and then the birth rate going down, and all of those factors, that maybe, I guess people thought that they were going to be better off. But what happened was there have been over 66 million recorded abortions since that time. And that's 66 million babies, human beings that have been killed before birth on purpose in our country. So all of these things are very confusing to me, and I think that our entire country is very mixed up. And I'm not sure that it's had a happy ending. It's been a very violent ending and a very it hasn't really helped anybody very much, I don't think. But anyway, I'd like to know what your opinions are about this. And I know it's a very complicated issue. I do know that we are no longer a Christian nation. We are living in a post-Christian world where there are so many secular influences on us that it's pretty hard to think straight. And the church attendance has plummeted over this same period of time. And the highest number, there are more people claiming to be atheists or agnostics now than ever before in our country. So all of these things, I think, are worth thinking about and reflecting on before the election. And I'm only bringing up because I do think that the words that are being presented in the actual bill or the amendment that is being proposed, the words are very confusing, and you have to know what you're voting for before you go in there and cast your vote. So I'm just really urging people to study it closely and be sure what you're voting for. And anyway, this is a short broadcast today, and I hope that you'll give it some thought. And if you'd like to comment on this, I would be very happy to hear your thoughts. The email address is howdidwegethere1884@gmail.com. And please, if you like this program, be sure to hit the like button and share it with others. There might be others who are confused about this too, and maybe you can have a conversation over it. Anyway, I hope to see you soon, and I'm glad that you came back. And until next time, take care of yourselves and come back again.
Thanks for tuning in to the How Did We Get Here podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and share this episode with your friends and family. For more information and to connect with Nancy, email howdidwegethere1884 at gmail.com.